Did you know that I have a course called Women Who Lead that will change everything about how you interact with humans? You'll learn how to make things safe, logical, fun, and memorable so that people will listen to you and love you a little bit more than they already do. All you have to do is go to www.aimwithus.com and click on courses, and it will take you to everything you need to know. I hope to see you there.
Welcome to Productive Joy with Dr. Christie, where fun meets action.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Productive Joy. I am so excited to introduce you to my new guest. But before we jump in, I need you to follow this podcast. You can do that on Spotify or Apple or YouTube or any of those places that you're getting your podcast. Because if you don't, you won't meet people like this fabulous woman in front of me. And I want you to. I want you to get more productive joy in your life. So today we have with us Dr. Sylvia Rohde-Liebenau. Did I get it even close?
That is wonderful.
It was close. And she is a lot of things. She is a writer. She is an artist. She is a coach to leaders. She also loves to dance in the kitchen. She is the mother of two adult women who used to really hate that she danced in the kitchen, but have become a little more tolerant of it. And she's calling today from Spain. And we are so excited to have you. Sylvia, welcome to Productive Joy.
Thank you, Christie. And I'm really excited to be with you and spend this time with you.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun for sure. And I did a little deep dive into you and learned that you are a pretty fascinating human being. And so I need you to convince people in the next 30 seconds or so why you're such a fascinating human being and why they should keep listening. So what would you say to them?
Well, maybe one reason is that I'm someone who has always questioned and redefined established ideas. And that started from when I was a small kid. And they gave me, when I was maybe 2 years old, a doll pram for Christmas. And I said, auto, which is car, because I thought that was a car and I used it as a car. I didn't want to play with dolls, actually. So when you see something, like speaking to the people listening to us, when you see something, don't always take it for what they tell you it is. Make it your own. And so that's part of my story. And the other part of my story is what my parents gave me is to see how you can make the world a better place. Not only because it's noble or something, but it makes your life more worthwhile to do that.
Oh, I love that. And it isn't just noble to make the world a better place. It is happier to live in a place where you feel like you're improving. So tell us how you do that. What does a day in the life look like?
Like my perfect day in my life is when I get the time, which I nowadays always get, is to be with myself, like to do physical exercises, to meditate, to also to be in nature. And then it's when I get to coach the wonderful clients that I have the privilege to coach, to witness their leadership and their lives and to support them to be like the best versions of themselves. That really fulfills me with joy. That's something, especially in the coaching space, where you're not teaching. It's not about I know better than you. Right. It is about what is the gem in this person and what are they already doing well and how can they get even further. And that just fulfills me with happiness if I get to do that.
Well, I love the way you said that. What's the gem in this person? As coaches, I'm a coach too, and I spend a lot of time helping people figure out who they are so that they can be the best versions of themselves. And I think sometimes we think we all have to fit in a box, and it kind of goes back to what you just said about don't just accept this for what it is. Question that and say, okay, well, this might be what it's designed for, but what else can it do? And so, how does that come out in your coaching? How do you help people find the gem that they are?
Great question. I think one is to be calm and peaceful and joyful in myself. So to create a safe space, as they call it, so that people feel like anything that I'm going to say here will be good. We can play. It's like it's a big sandbox. We can play and discover, and I won't be judged. So that is very important. And then the other thing is also that as a coach, I don't have a plan. Of course, I have plenty of tools, but I will not enter into any coaching session thinking I know already what we're going to do. The same when I facilitate workshops, offsites. Anyone listening to this and doing the same work, you will have the experience that the best offsides sometimes happen when you like throw away the plan
100%.
because
Yes.
because you follow what is needed in the moment.
Mhm.
So that's something else. And then it's to have the balance between what I said before, really looking for what works and working with deep reverence for my client, but also challenging them.
Yeah.
Like when I see like they are lying to themselves, or they can do better than to hold up the mirror and or gently poking them.
Well, so here's something that I'm sure you know about yourself, but I'm going to say as an observer is it takes a very talented leader to be able to throw away the script, to be able to say, you know what, this is what's needed in the moment. So we're not going to go this way, we're
Yeah.
going to go that way. And that can be both scary and intimidating because this is what I know and this is what I need to do. But you found a magical way to say, I know a lot of things. And so this can go from over here to over there, and that's acceptable and that's okay. Did someone teach you that, or did you just discover it over time? Like, how did you get to the point where you were confident enough to be able to say, I know enough to go off script?
Mm. You know what you just said, how do you discover over time? That's very important. So I think one thing for me personally is that given that I'm also an artist, I also have learned that when I paint a painting, then sometimes after some time, I end up saying, oh, I don't like this. This is leading nowhere. So I take, if it's an oil painting, I take some dissolvent and go over it.
Just start out.
And then I will see something in that which I have just destroyed, which is actually like the first seed of something really exciting. So not what I plan to do, but what I can see in the space that I've just messed up. And I've discovered over time that it's very true. The same is true also in leadership. And then it's, of course, experience. I mean, in the first coachings and the first workshops I've given, I was not at that stage because I had my script and I had learned it and studied it. And then, of course, we saw, oh, no, this doesn't work. But then I was really nervous because, oh, we have to change something. And then you learn over time that, hey, we have to change this. And it's part of what's happening. And it's actually also fun to see like, how can we make this even better?
Yeah, it is fun. Well, and so I can't say I fly by the seat of my pants, but I absolutely go in the direction that things need to go. I am okay going off script. And it has taken time to get to that point where I realize that I know enough and I am intuitive enough in the space to be able to say, yeah, no, this group doesn't need that. This group needs this.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm sure makes you a very sought after coach is that you're not giving this canned response, right? We can hire a group to come in and give us exactly the same thing and it's predictable and it's safe, but it's not productive. And you know, when I think about productive joy, that's what I think of is the ability to say, I painted this painting, I don't like it, I'm going to start over, and then look, there's that little piece that I'm going to hold on to. So that's when I hear all of that, I hear productive joy, but I always love to ask the question of my guests, if you had to describe productive joy, how would you describe it?
That would be being joyfully absorbed and creative, like being in the zone. It's like when you have kids playing, they are like really absorbed. They're focused, but in a playful way. They're playing. So it's that kind of joyful focus.
I love that. I love that. Why do you think we lose that as adults? You mentioned kids do it, right? And I agree with you. When you watch a 5-year, my daughter teaches kindergarten, and watching her kids discover is fascinating. You know, they're 5, 6 years old. Everything in the world is still new and exciting. But we lose that as adult humans. And it actually, we lose it maybe before we're adults too. But what do you think causes that loss of discovery?
I mean, you just said it in some way, like the kids, they discover. It makes me think of something that really fulfilled me with great joy once when I was sitting in an airport bus, and there was this mom with maybe a 1.5-year-old baby. And this baby looked at everything in this bus. So very normal things, people, faces, maybe something outside. And you saw really the awe in this little child's face. And I was thinking, wow, if we adults would see things in the same way as this child does, we would see things that we don't see. And so we would actually be more productive. So to come back to your question, and also more joyful, because what happens is that we go through our lives then, and we think we already know. We've already seen that. We've seen their face. We've seen this wall. We've seen that tree already. And if we were to look at things afresh again and again, what a difference that would make in our lives.
It's kind of like you when you were handed a toy and you decided it was going to be something entirely different, right? I think we do lose that at some point, but I don't think it's lost forever. And it sounds like you help people rediscover that push the status quo. This is what you think it is. This is what you think you're supposed to be doing, but let's look at it differently. So, can you come up with a story or a time that you were working with a group of leaders that you were able to help them shift their focus, see things differently?
Just thinking of one thing. Yeah, thinking of a group of leaders, was actually two. We were doing a double workshop with two different teams that had really big difficulties in working with each other because they thought that they were in competition. And we helped them, first of all, to step into each other's shoes. And so they all of a sudden said, oh, this is what it would feel like from the other side. And also to see their work in a far more creative way. So by doing different exercises that help them to step out of like I go to the office and this is the way I have to do it, and these are the rules and the routine. So it's a mixture of like stepping out of our role. So I know that this is my perspective and it will always be my perspective, but to take a different perspective, and then to get to be more playful. Like, oh, this is another way of doing it. Like, this is another way of seeing it, and this is another way of doing it.
I think it's giving people permission, right? It sounds like you give people permission to explore, to see things a little differently, to try it in a different light, right? Like you said, step into somebody else's shoes. I don't think we do that enough as human beings. We don't put ourselves in other people's shoes. We stay in our own and we look through our lens. So I had an opportunity this week to be near a photographer, and I asked the photographer, I said, okay, so tell me about bringing things into focus. I said, how do you do that? Because I watched her several times point the lens and then kind of do one of these, right? Like where she was going away and coming back. And she said, well, I decide what I want to be crisp in the picture. And that's where I put my attention. That's where I put my boxes, right? Within the lens. And then everything else kind of blurs. And I think what you just said about lenses is really important, because what's hyper focused for me is going to be different than what's hyper focused for you. And yet we need both perspectives. And so when you're working with leaders, you're able to show them, no, there's not just one perspective. This is your perspective, and this is what you're focused on. But somebody else might be focused on something different, and both are important.
Exactly.
I'm sure that is a very fulfilling thing to do. So what do people hire you to do, and where do you do it? Because I know you're living in Spain. You're in Spain right now. Do you live in Spain?
I live part of my life in Spain, and part of my life I live more in like northern Europe, like Germany, Luxembourg.
It sounds wonderful. And
Yeah.
this is where you do your coaching, or do you also do it online? Like where could people find you?
So I do it a lot online. So individual coaching happens a lot online. I also do individual retreats because, like, asking what do? I work a lot with the body. And then, of course, online we can do some things, but it's not as much as we do. Exactly. So there is a part of me doing executive coaching, which is like, where also I use my experience having been in the corporate world for a long time. And then there's like more the special aspects of using embodiment, because I have learned that like through my acting and voice work, that when I'm in my body, I'm much more present and joyful and also impactful. People will listen to me more. So I help my clients to do the same. And also using the body to be more relaxed, more grounded.
Yeah.
And so then there's also the work with the voice.
Mm.
like to help people, especially women, how to enter more fully into their bodies when they speak, and to therefore also take up more space,
Yes.
and to like project their voices better. So that's a lot of my work. And that is again easier in person than online, but it also works online. I've done quite a bit online. And then there is offsites and trainings. So just come back from a wonderful leadership training last week in Luxembourg
Okay.
with a group of leaders that was very like immersive and integrative. So we work not only with like understanding things and emotionally understanding them, but also embodying.
Mm.
And that is a great way for transformation, because when we feel things in the body, we actually don't only understand them like I think about my emotion, but I feel my emotion really. And then I can understand, okay, what feels good and what maybe I want to change because actually it doesn't work for me anymore.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So clearly, you've done some things in your life. You mentioned that you're an artist. You also help people with speech. You help people as an executive coach. You were in the corporate world for a while. I'm curious what your doctorate is in. What did you study to get to this point? Because those are not necessarily related things. And yet I can see how all of them have come together to make you exactly the coach you need to be.
Something very different and then also not so different. So I studied political science and law,
Oh,
and
interesting.
my my PhD was in security studies, international
Okay.
security studies. The thesis was about something that was not guns and bullets, because I wanted to prove, like, see things in a different way. I
Mhm.
wanted to prove that guns and bullets are important, but they're not the only source of power. They're not the only thing that changes things in international affairs or in life. And so I studied the influence of non-governmental organizations in East and West. So it was like former Soviet Union and the US and Western Europe working together to impact the governmental level, and how that changed international politics in the 80s, 90s. So following the Helsinki Final Act, that not so many people know about this anymore, like the Helsinki Conference for Security and Cooperation in Europe, and following that, all the process where non-governmental organizations said, hey, human rights, actually, the governments, you signed something there, so we hold you accountable. And then Western governments were held accountable by their citizens and started to confront the Eastern European governments. And that had a huge impact of what happened then, both on the national level in these countries, because the governments had to justify themselves, and what happened in the intergovernmental arena, and which had a huge impact on the end of the Soviet era.
Wow. Okay. So you're impressive just in as a human, and just in spending this short amount of time with you, it is clear that you command a room, you help people understand what they need to understand, but then you're giving them the freedom to figure it out for themselves. And I can see where your studies have led into everything that you're doing. It's funny, I think that getting a doctorate, having one myself, is just a test in tenacity, right? Like
Yes,
you're going to
indeed.
study something, and it teaches you that you can study something, but that you can take that information forward, and it's not necessarily, like you said, directly related, and yet it totally is. It's the study of humans. It's the study of how we react and what we do, right?
Was the study of communication, of power, of social interactions, how reality shifts because you communicate. That was what it was at the end, and which actually led me to my like current work on power.
Yeah.
Like, how does power in organizations really work? Is it really because I'm the boss and I shout down the corridor and I have the title? Or is it because I convince people, because I build alliances, because I create collaboration? And I've observed, like, having been in the corporate world for so long, that it's the latter, it's not the former.
Right, that actually gets things done, but the former happens a whole lot more often, right?
Yeah.
Like, we hear people and we just cringe when we think, oh my goodness. And so my philosophy in life is that if we don't make work fun, people quit. But
Yeah.
I have a very distinct definition of fun, and it involves three things. People need to feel valued and appreciated. People need to have a voice, and they need to be allowed to use it, and they need to be able to leverage their talents for the greater good. And I think everything you just said is what that latter leader does. Is they say, I see you, I hear you, I appreciate you, I think you're amazing, I want you to do your thing and do it well. And it's clear to me that that's what you're doing with people.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazing. And I hope that you keep doing it for many, many years to come. So I want to know how my listeners can find you. What's the best way for them to discover a little more Dr. Sylvia?
They can find me anytime on LinkedIn, Sylvia Rohde-Liebenau, or on my website, which is smartpowermethod.com.
smartpowermethod.com. Okay, well, we will make sure we put all of that in the show notes so that people can find you, because it doesn't matter that you live in Europe. It matters that our world got much smaller once the internet decided it was going to take over, right? And so we are all kind of here together. And I'm really flattered and excited that you chose to spend your time with Productive Joy today, even though you don't even have power right now. Nobody would know that you are just kind of no internet, and yet you're making it work on a hotspot. So
Making it work, exactly.
that is impressive. Are you okay if I ask you a couple rapid fire questions before we're done? Okay, this is my favorite part. So I just gave you my definition of fun. It was rather complicated. However, what is your definition of fun?
Being joyfully creative and like absorbed in something I said before, like being in productive joy, and it's co-creating with others, like dancing with others. So it could be dance. Actually, I love to dance Argentinian tango. It's something where you really have to dance together. And it's the same at work. I find like working alone, sometimes it's okay, but it can be very dull. Like more collaboration is fun.
Yeah. Oh, I agree completely. Okay. How do you know that you are showing up as your authentic self?
I feel it in my body, feel the alignment. And so I know when I'm there, when I'm authentic. I feel in flow. Very simple.
In flow. That's a good answer. I've gotten that answer a couple of times. I think that just makes sense. How do you channel your best self on your worst days?
On the worst day in particular, I will then look out and see for what's actually good on that day, because there's always something, and connect to gratitude, like on that day, and being grateful for life. And sometimes also focus on service. Like, what can I do for someone else right now?
It's hard to be grumpy when you're serving someone else, right? I love it. Okay, last question, not going to be an easy question, because you talked about some really exceptional things, and I want people to really hold on to one of them, because that's really how our brains work, right? In 30 minutes, we can hold on to one thing. So if people can only remember one thing about our time together today, what's the one thing you really want them to walk away with?
I mean, could be actually, I'm going to give you two.
I'll take two. I'll take two.
It's like what we started out with: question, establish truth, and think for yourself. But then there's also, like, from what we just talked about, is actually come from love, like from what you see, and appreciate what you see and who you are with and who you are today. So coming from love, because that gives an enormous amount of energy and power and allows you to do so much more than getting stuck in, oh, that's not going to work.
The sky is falling. The sky is falling. It doesn't do any good.
There's no power today.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You could have had that kind of attitude and you didn't. You're like, we could persevere. It's fine. It's fine. Well, thank you. That was beautiful. And you are beautiful. And I am just so grateful that you are full of all this brilliance, but you're choosing to share it. I think that's the most important part, right? Is that we can be really brilliant by ourselves, but like you just said, it can get lonely working by yourself. You need to collaborate with others. It's how we were designed. And so I'm grateful that you chose to share your brilliance with the Productive Joy crew today. And I can't wait to continue to follow you and learn from you. And I know my listeners will do the same. So thank you for being on Productive Joy today.
Well, thank you, Christie. It's been a joy.
That's the goal. That's the goal. And okay, listeners, I'm telling you, they just keep getting better. And people like Dr. Sylvia don't come along every day, but you won't know that they came along if you don't know that there's a new episode of Productive Joy. So do yourself a favor, grab onto that, and recognize that today is a great day to find a new nugget of wisdom and figure out how to turn fun into action.